will call the special session to order. Roll call, please, Bev.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Here.
Vice Mayor Brown is not here yet. Councilmember DePorter's not here yet. Councilmember Magazine?
Yep.
Councilmember Yates?
Present.
Councilmember Toles?
Present.
And Councilmember Leger?
All right. Thank you, Bev. Number one, consideration of Resolution 2018-39 declaring and adopting the results of the special election held on May 15, 2018. Grady?
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor and Council. I'm going to go ahead and have the town clerk just give you a brief synopsis of the election results. As part of your action tonight, you'll be asked to declare and adopt the results from the election. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the town clerk, who will summarize the election results.
Mayor, Council, the results are listed in the resolution before you. I don't think I probably need to run through the numbers, but it did not pass. Yes votes was 3,459. No votes was 6,705. This is a requirement by the state that we canvass the election results.
Okay, thank you.
What if we vote against?
Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Okay, council discussion? If not, can I get a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2018-39.
Thank you. All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 5-0.
Consideration of approving a special event liquor license application submitted by Kiera Allen, representing the Fountain Hills Theater, located at 11445 North Saguaro Boulevard, Fountain Hills, Arizona, for the purpose of a fundraiser to be held from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. on Monday, June 4th, 2018. Grady?
Yes, we actually put this on because they learned that what our process was, and they were going to miss the opportunity to get this submitted in time, because the event, I believe, is between now and the next meeting on council on June 5th. So I don't have anything else to report other than this is more or less routine. The staff has reviewed this, and as far as I know, we don't have any issues or concerns about this request. It's only...
Mm-hmm. Alan, do you have
I
something?
said move approval. Mayor, second.
Okay. Speaker cards?
None, Mayor.
Mike would be the only speaker. Okay. A motion to approve and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 5-0.
All right. Discussion with possible directions to staff relating to future legal services for the town of Fountain Hills. Grady?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, you recall we had an in-depth, Mitesh is going to be excusing himself because of the appearance of a potential conflict of interest. So
Will you be advising us legally
I will not be.
in the interim?
I will not be. But if we need to have,
Mr. Trimble?
if we need to deputize somebody, I'm sure we can figure that out. Any case, we had an in-depth discussion presentation that occurred at the council retreat in February regarding the future of our legal services. We're not going to go through the long presentation that we had back then, but there appeared to be consensus on perhaps looking at a more of a fixed cost retainer fee. I know that there were some council members, a few still wanted to have maybe a on-staff person and maybe some additional legal staff. But we've done some research, and we do know that there's at least a few firms out here, and in talking with Mitesh, his firm said that they would be open to it, although I think this being a competitive process, you never know where that's going to fall. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our Administrative Services Director, David Trimble, who actually I asked to help take the lead and do the research on this. And then we're going to open it up for discussion and figure out where we go from there. We also have an RFP that is in your packet, which I think it's excellent. This was actually not solicited and brought to our attention from a former colleague who used to work in the Valley here and accepted a job in a municipality in the San Diego area and was made aware through the league that we were looking at a change with legal services, and they had just gone through a very similar process. So we kind of added, I call it Fountain Hills approach, but we really have for the most part, probably about 95% of it is the RFP that was submitted to us, and we made some tweaks to it. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Trimble, who will go through a very brief presentation.
Thanks, Grady. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We'll try to keep it brief tonight, and we'll go through the slides, and then we'll leave plenty of time for discussion.
Okay.
So as Grady said, just for some background, we're focused on the civil side of things. The criminal, the prosecutorial side is covered. So the main focus for Fountain Hills is the civil services that we've talked about before. Dickinson Wright has been our acting town attorney on an interim basis since October of last year. And as Grady mentioned, in February, we had the town council retreat. We presented several options, including one that was the flat or fixed fee arrangement. And again, as Grady mentioned, we thought that the council discussion kind of seemed to point toward maybe doing an RFP with that fixed fee feature included. We think it'll probably save the town some money and at least get us back to probably our average that we had seen before the change, which on a 5-year basis, our average was approximately $275,000. We have budgeted for the upcoming year $400,000. So again, we're hoping maybe through this process that we can get back.
Which was adjusted. So this is the adjusted amount. This is after the council had their budget session, they reduced it. So the total now is $400,000.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Councilman
What do you
Magazine?
mean adjusted? I didn't follow that.
So you recall during the discussion, we had a number of items, the communications director, and there were several different items that the council made some reductions to the draft proposed budget. And so one of the items was we were trying to get to a number to get to the cap or ceiling of our state-imposed limitation on our budget. And so part of that, I believe it might have been Councilmember Yates or someone had suggested maybe even reducing or maybe it was you. I apologize if I forget the name or who did this. Partnership. Okay, I like that. But there was a reduction. Do you remember what it was, Craig, before the reduction? $450,000. So when we were trying to get the number down, we reduced it by $50,000.
What was the, anybody know what the budget amount was the year before last? Last year was an anomaly.
I would say it was probably, because we've been increasing it each of the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, if I may, it was on a steady incline, averaging
I would say it was around
20%.
Yeah, I would say it was probably for this year before the firm came on. I would say we were probably at close to $300,000 is what the budgeted amount was versus actual.
Just one more question. Is a fixed fee something that law firms, is this something out of the ordinary?
Well, we're going to go into what that is, but what it is, it's starting to become more normal. But it's been around for a long time. A lot of people have what's called retainer fees. You'll have like an attorney, you could have a personal attorney, and you pay so much per year that gives you privileges to have access to that attorney anytime you need that attorney. It's very similar with this arrangement, but we would have a base level of services that the RFP would call out for, and then anything over and above that, what we were finding, the cities that had this arrangement, they would go ahead and reevaluate after 12 months and see if there were some unusual situations that might affect going forward. And so they kind of negotiated what, if any, the amount that they might have to make an adjustment going forward. But it basically gets you your corporate municipal attorney and all the services that we take for granted. And then when you have those services where they really need, like for instance, getting into some lawsuits or maybe development agreements that are very complicated or something like that, where you spend more money than you typically would, then that's where you kind of do the adjustment 12 months later. So, and I'm sorry, I'm stealing a little bit from Dave's presentation, but it's a good question because that's kind of where we're kind of leaning at this point. So Dave, why don't you go ahead and continue?
If I could, one more. Sure. The $400,000, that included some criminal budget, did it not? It was
This is
400, okay, that was after the adjustment that we did, taking
Yes.
the change consideration, and then we adjusted it down.
So
as-
prosecutor is in a separate area of the budget. And then the 400,000, Craig, that still also includes other like subscriptions and the LexisNexis, subscription, memberships.
It's not, it's only outside contract costs.
But we do have those budgeted elsewhere.
We do have those.
So
budgeted.
it's 400,000 just for the services, and then we have a base budget just for those types of budget items. So I apologize, I thought I had that, but I didn't.
Mayor, if I,
Councilman Leger?
thank you. And in our partnership discussion, we were looking at, like the average here, and we talked about that, was about, I came up with about 280 for the 5 years prior, not including this year. And if you look at 275, that does hit the average. I think the reason we landed at 400,000 is that there's going to be still an interim period before a new contract kicks in. And given the rates that we're paying, we needed to be slightly inflated above the 275, 280, and that gives us some wiggle room to cover those costs for the interim, which have, well, we know have been a bit more expensive. Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Craig.
Dave?
Okay, so just a little more background. We did, as Grady mentioned, we have an RFP that we utilized information from another city that had one very good. We also looked at a couple other cities here in Arizona, and we incorporated our specific attributes. The scope of work that's included includes all the expected items that you might include, that should be included, as well as we added in regular office hours and attendance at our weekly staff meeting, which is currently on Wednesdays. The RFP also requires proposals to include, as we mentioned, the fixed fee concept, and they are also to identify any special services, as Grady mentioned. And we'll look at a list coming up at some of those things. And then when they identify the special services, we're asking them to price out what hourly rate that those would be priced at. So, as we look at this list, we've seen this before, so I think in the upper left-hand corner, sort of drafting ordinances and resolutions would probably be more along the routine thing that we would probably expect them to include in this sort of fixed fee concept. Whereas if you look at the upper right-hand corner, probably bonding, if we need to go out for a bond, that would be something that we would expect them to go out and charge us for, in addition to.
But just to let you know, the way that works is that the bond proceeds typically pay for that, so that wouldn't hit your general operating budget. It always comes out of bond proceeds. So like when you sell the bonds, that covers your financial advisor, because we have a financial advisor we never pay, except for when we have financings or debt issuance. And same thing with the legal bond counsel.
So good point. Thank you. So that's just kind of a list of some of the items. Next steps, we're tonight seeking guidance. If it's okay, if the discussion goes that route, we'd like to potentially move forward with this RFP pretty soon. And we also would have, as part of that process, we would have a staff panel that would probably include myself, probably Craig, maybe another staff person, to go over the submittals and kind of narrow the focus down. One of the other things is we would probably like a subcommittee of the town council, maybe 2 or 3 members, to then go ahead and review the staff recommendations, and then potentially narrow it down from there. And then I think the entire town council would interview the finalists, however many that would be deemed in the final group.
Madam Mayor. Mr. Trimble, what kind of timeline do you think, I called you Mr. Trimble, timeline you think this would take, concept through?
The next page.
Next page.
All right.
Next slide.
Après-vous.
So this is not set in stone, but if we get going on this, we can meet these, the first deadlines, and then the other ones are a little bit easier to meet, I think. But we would be ready to go on this and release it next week. And then we would propose that submittals are due at the end of June. And then, over the summer, we would be weeding out the companies that submit, the firms that submit. And then, as you can see, when council comes back from the summer hiatus, we would hopefully be ready to do the interviews and then finally appoint the town attorney pretty soon after in September.
Mayor,
Okay, Councilman Magazine.
how do you solicit and how do you release? I mean, there's so many law firms. How do you do that?
It's a good question, and I think our procurement code kind of dictates some of that. So what we have ready to go is an ad in the Fountain Hills Times, and then another ad in the Phoenix Business Journal, Phoenix
Business Gazette.
Business Gazette. And then we place that on our website as well.
A lot of these law firms all subscribe to services for this type of thing. So in addition to seeing it themselves in the Phoenix Business Gazette, they have these alerts that they receive every time this type of solicitation occurs. So I'm very confident we'll get a good number that will submit for this.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. No speaker cards on this item? All right, then, we're just looking for a motion then for staff to go forward with this.
Mayor, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And
Mayor, 5-0.
the other thing that might be helpful, and I don't know if you need to do it tonight, but if you want to be thinking about, so perhaps in June we can come back and figure out who on council would like to be on the subcommittee. Or if you have nominations, you want to do that now, that would be fine. But I think it would be best for you to think about this based on this and then take a look at the RFP and let us know when we come back in June who might be the 2 or 3 council members to serve on that committee, council subcommittee.
Okay, well, since the rest of the council isn't here at this time, we'll just wait, and whoever is interested in serving on this committee, just let me know. Can we do it that way?
You bet.
Okay. Anything else on this? No. Okay, then that's, Mitesh can come back. Come back for our adjournment, and then you can leave again. Can I get a motion to adjourn? And a second?
Mayor, second.
All in favor? Any opposed? We're adjourned.